This morning we arrived here at the new office, NAAIPi Atlanta headquarters. We were looking at information from the Standing Rock episode that's going on out there right now, and we decided to first play a video of a young lady that was video shot out at Standing Rock, and she was speaking about some situations that were taking place last night concerning planes flying over the members out at the protest, and she expressed that they were spraying chemicals throughout the night for about an hour. Here's her presentation.
In Ushu, my name is Candida Rodriguez Kingbird. I am Red Lake Anishinaabe, Ojibwe. I'm here today is recording from Standing Rock, North Dakota. Today is November 14, 2016. New developments, we have had aircraft flying over our camp for several days, different kinds of small charter planes and what looks, appears to be helicopters have been coming through at night. They mostly come at night and they have their lights off, which is dangerous to other aircraft. They're using the space illegally. They don't have any permits or permission to be using the airspace of the federal tribal lands, so they're breaking the law to begin with. Last night, the new development was an aircraft flying over our encampment from approximately 1:40 a.m. till about 2:20 a.m. this morning. And every 2 minutes on the dot, they were encircling the circumference of our camp and doing what we believe to be spraying chemical agents down on top of us. This is an act of chemical warfare. This is an act of terrorism in the United States by the United States government against the indigenous peoples of Standing Rock and of this encampment. They are not reaching out to the sides where the police department has set up their barriers and their blockades, so we know that they are strategically placing these chemicals on top of us. This morning at 5:30 we came out because we heard the same aircraft passing overhead. It was verified to be a crop duster, and on the underbelly side of it, under each wing, there were 2 hoses which they used to spray down agriculture and poisons on top of different harvests that they're growing and stuff like that. So this is an act of terrorism. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting for the people. We're going to keep fighting for the rights. These resources belong to our children. This water belongs to our children. This is our future. These kids need this land. They need this water. They need these resources, and they need us to stand and fight and protect them. Don't put this on Facebook. They'll take it back off again. But do share this with family. Talk to your family about this. Talk to your friends about this. Spread the news out there. Let them know this is an act of genocide from the U.S. government. This is a terroristic attack. Power to the people, man. We're not going to stop. Stay at it.
The issue that we're faced with out at Standing Rock is really an issue that can be simplified by filing the right claims in the right court. The proper court to be in is the District Court of Washington, D.C. When cases are filed by foreign nationals in the District Court of Washington, D.C., they fall under Article 3 jurisdiction. All Indian rights, all Aboriginal rights, all indigenous rights fall up under Article 3 jurisdiction. The judges in these courts in the states are territorial legislative judges that cannot move on Article 3 jurisdiction, which means that they cannot move to protect the rights of foreign nationals, of Indians, of American Indian, of Native American, of American Aborigine, of indigenous people of the United States, of America. I'm sorry, not the United States, because the United States does not have indigenous people. They have citizens, they have slaves, so I do retract that. At this moment, I'm going to discuss International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. What we're looking at with Standing Rock is a violation of international law, a violation of human rights. The only way to deal with these particular issues out at Standing Rock is to move quickly to the District Court in Washington, D.C. Move to the District Court quickly in Washington, D.C. to file claims of environmental racism and apartheid against those states and against the pipeline, against the United States. This must be done immediately, and as soon as this is done, then an injunction will follow to stop all the activity at Standing Rock concerning the pipeline and mining. The case must be filed as a foreign national Foreign nationals file their cases under Article 3 jurisdiction. Foreign nationals do not succumb to state jurisdiction and the state policies, but only the Article 3 federal policies of the Organic United States Agreement that was done with the nations of Aborigines in this country. So, in moving forward, we recognize that a number of treaty bodies have addressed environmental racism. Treaty body decisions bind only the state parties in the case, but their decisions and other pronouncements may evince a norm of customary international law. In other words, there may be decisions and pronouncements that fall into the norm of international law. And the instances of what's taking place at Standing Rock fall under international law because the individuals out there are foreign nationals. They are oppressed by a suppressive government that is not of the same race, that is not of the same culture as they are. So we're moving into apartheid issues. The Human Rights Committee, HRC, the International CCCPR treaty body, has primarily addressed the environmental racism via Article 27. What this is saying that evidence has already been developed, information has already been provided concerning environmental racism and torts filed under, or alien tort claims filed under just cogent, which is customary international law of nations. The topics of what this lady was speaking about concerning the aerial sprays that they did last night at Standing Rock, it only takes one nation from the numerous nations out in Dakota to go straight away to the district court in Washington, D.C. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is the district court in Washington, D.C. filed under environmental racism to stop all of the activity that's happening at Standing Rock right now. An injunction would follow, and then the state would have to prove that it has title to the land. The mining company would have to prove that it has permission and authority from the holders of the land, which are the Aborigines, and we end up in a conundrum at the district court where they are unable to move. Complaints have come from indigenous people alleging denials of their Article 27 rights arising from states' development decisions regarding use of their traditional territories. I'll read it again. Complaints under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights have come from indigenous people alleging denials of their Article 27 rights, Article 27 under International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 27 rights arising from states' development decisions regarding use of their traditional territories. The traditional territories are the territories of the Aboriginal people. So, when these denials of the right to use your traditional territories are in play, the violation is under Article 27, which the state of North Dakota, South Dakota, and the United States have already agreed to. So it is vitally important that we recognize Article 27 as an implementation source to hold the states accountable for their actions. I'm going to scroll to the next section. It says, thus, as in the inter-American cases, the human rights violations at issue almost always arise as a consequence of land rights violations. So we're still talking about land rights violations and environmental degradation, and indeed are inseparable from the factors of violations of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. I'm going to proceed. The HRC has considered both the process and substance of development decisions. As to process, the HRC has asked whether a state party has included indigenous communities and considered historic inequities in the course of its decisions to take lands. So, Did the state consider the rights of the Sioux Nation people? Did the state of North and South Dakota consider the rights of the descendants of the sustainable existence of these people? No, they did not. And if they did, then they must show that on the record to show whatever structures they put in place to actually function in this manner. Measures that amount to a denial of rights violate Article 27. Measures with a certain limited impact will not necessarily violate 27. Further says that HRC thus protects indigenous interests in their lands. It's a land article, it's a land protection device that we can use in the international venue, but only when we file environmental racism torts under the Alien Tort Statute. Alien Tort Statute allows us, Aborigines, indigenous people, to file claims in the international venue that must be answered with the international norm of response. That cannot happen again in a state federal court. The state federal court is a legislative court that's actually owned and controlled, operated by the state. So therefore, when the state tells you that you cannot move forward and you run to the district court within that same state, that district court is going to follow what the state has already said. So you have to come out of the state and go to Washington, D.C. When you go to Washington, D.C., you have to file at the district court. District Court of the United States is the proper title. Not the United States District Court, but the District Court of the United States. That's the organic court. At the District Court of the United States, located in the District of Columbia, not Washington, D.C., but in the District of Columbia. When you title your tort this way, then it goes to the right department. If you title it United States, then it's going to go to the territorial legislative jurisdiction. This is going to end up in a no-go and a dead end for tribal, Aborigines, indigenous people, First Nations, Indians, as they call us. It is important that individuals understand these particular norms. I'm going to slowly scroll and have him just focus on the screen so that you can rewind this and look at the provisions that are provided under International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. You can also go online and pull up the information. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to just scroll down slowly so that we can get the information on film. I said I wasn't going to talk, but I like this at 254. By failing to ensure minority rights in the context of Article 27, states discriminate against minorities and engage in environmental racism. Environmental racism is the key because it covers and includes apartheid. And now we're really talking in the international venue where we need to be. Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, CERD, ICERD's treaty body has consistently affirmed that discrimination against indigenous people falls under the scope of the ICERD, and that all appropriate means must be taken to combat and eliminate such discrimination. Such means include measures to recognize and protect indigenous rights to own, develop, and use their traditional lands and resources. The CERD reinforced this holding in 2005, finding that New Zealand discriminated against indigenous peoples by extinguishing the possibility of establishing customary titles and failing to guarantee a right of redress for the wrongs of taking their lands. When New Zealand indigenous people filed their claims against the state of New Zealand in the international venue under environmental racism, they were awarded their lands back. They were awarded their rights back. The tribes or the indigenous people, Aborigines of America, must begin doing the same thing. It does not cost anything for a foreign national to file his tort or her tort in the district court in Washington, D.C. NAAIP has developed a process through our associates where the members of NAAIP do not pay to file their torts. We provide them with the necessary documents so that they can file these environmental racism suits for nothing, without paying a dime, and having the entire process initiated in Washington, D.C., assisted by us from beginning to end. If there is an issue, for example, we were contacted by the Pine River Sioux Nation out in Dakota concerning their intent to file suit, and it is the environmental racism suit that we will be assisting them with in the next few days. There are 4 other nations in the Dakotas that are also preparing to file similar environmental racism torts. We recommend that 10,000 tribes come forward to file environmental racism suits against the United States and against the states that are holding their lands and that are violating their rights, their human rights. We are at a point to where the country is allowing warfare to be committed against Aborigine and indigenous people in America. We do not have to succumb to that. We do not have to tolerate that. We can file our suits in Washington, D.C. We must file our suits in Washington, D.C. I encourage anyone, any Aborigine, indigenous, native, whatever you call yourself, person, to come forward, the information so that you can move forward and file your suit against those that are oppressing you and your people. When these things are done, and they're done collectively and in massive quantity, we make an impact. It is important that we recognize immediately that we can stop the oppression that's coming on us, that's coming upon Standing Rock, that's coming on Aborigines, indigenous people across the globe, especially here in America. We can stop these people by simply filing the right information into the right agencies.